So, going over some of my library reads for the month of July 2022, I have the first volume of Oshinobo, the a la carte editions we received in English. Oshinobo was one of the longest running manga in Japan, running from the late 80s, I believe. Then stopping in 2008, then picking up serialization again from 2009 up until it was put on indefinite hiatus in 2011 or 2014, I can't recall, because of wide criticism of how the Fukushima disaster was treated. All in all, Oshinobo, which is the gourmet or a portmanteau of oishi and oh gosh, what other word was that? Pardon. Of oishi and kushinobo, which is someone who loves to eat. So oishi is like delicious, and then kushinobo is someone who loves to eat. So oshinobo, yum, I love to eat, the gourmet. In English, we got 7 of these a la carte editions put out by Viz, beginning publication in 2009 with volume 7 coming out in 2010. A respectable number of these editions covering specific types of cuisine. As you can see, volume 1 was Japanese cuisine, and then it covered various topics in each volume, from vegetables to izakaya or pub food. This is just a generic Japanese cuisine. The story follows, what's his name? Shiro, as he is a food critic trying to build basically like the best menu in Japan. They were able to transfer these stories into these a la carte editions because each chapter is fairly standalone, very episodic. The stories in here range from a man learning how to truly appreciate sashimi and how it is still a great way of a great cuisine when compared to other countries because of the skill involved in its preparation, and then it kind of delves into all the nitty-gritty of that, which I find very interesting. And then also to something along the lines of a chef who is preparing raw fish and gets in trouble because he goes for a smoke, and the gourmet who tastes his food can taste the remnants of the cigarette smoke on his hands. Something very interesting, and I really enjoyed this. It was a good collection. This was a borrow from the Holy State Library, as with all these volumes that I'm going to be going over. And you can pick it up. I would say this is probably for a slightly older audience, someone who maybe is interested in food, or someone who has like an interest in Japanese culture through the food experience. Okay. And then next up we have What Did You Eat Yesterday, continuing with the food manga theme by Fumi Yoshinaga. This series has been running in Japan since 2007? 2007, I was right. It's a story about 2 gay men. They're older. They're in a very established relationship. They're in their 40s in this first volume. And just how their love of cooking brings them together and brings them together with their community. Shiro, the main character here, another Shiro, popular name for food manga, I guess, he's not out to his work. He's out to his parents, but not to his work. He's the main cook of the house. That's his favorite, like his way to decompress after a long day. And then his boyfriend here, Kenji, is a very out, flamboyant hairdresser. I had a really good time with this. This is my first time picking up this series, my first Yoshinaga series, and sorry about that. Something was going on with my phone there. Yes, I'm recording with a phone. But yeah, so this was also picked up from the Hawaii State Library. They currently only have volumes 1 through 3, despite the series being a bit older. So I am going to be slowly picking this up. I was able to find some used copies online for under $6 a piece, so you'll be seeing that in a future haul video. But this one was a really great read. I'm really excited to enjoy more of these characters. I'm not sure how much of the series I'm planning on picking up, as it is currently 19 volumes and ongoing in Japan. Despite the volumes being fairly thin, these volumes put out by Vertical are not cheap, as with all Vertical releases. This is a $13 volume. So right now I'm trying to pick it up for my current... Ooh, it got dark all of a sudden. Sun probably went behind a cloud. Let me open that back up there. With 19 volumes at $13, about $13 a piece, it's a bit expensive, so I'm going to be trying to see if I can pick them up for 50% or less, either through sales or finding it online for a good deal. But yeah, so this is volume 1, and then the fun thing with this is on each of the covers, it tells you what dishes they make. But yeah, this first volume came out in the US in 2014, so a bit of a lag between, or not if it was 2014, when was this? Yeah, 2014 we got it, so that's a fairly wide gap between the Japanese release in 2007 and the first English release, and I believe in English we're still about 4 or 5 volumes behind the Japanese release. So it's a slow release, probably because it's not super popular, but I love Yoshinaga's expressions. She shows like such great moments like this here. You may know Yoshinaga's more popular work, Oku. I haven't picked up Oku. My library does have everything, so I probably will be reading it through there. But moving forward, we have 2 volumes of Queen's Quality, volume 13 and volume 14. This brings me up to current on reading Queen's Quality. I can't say too much without spoiling, since this is pretty far in the story. Even these covers are pretty telling. Gosh, their outfits are so good in these later volumes. Look how good they look. Look how good they all look. But Queen's Quality is probably one of my favorite shoujo right now. With battle scenes and romance being something so important to these characters, I really enjoyed my time with it. And the end, just the cliffhanger at the end of volume 14, and I need volume 15. Shoujo beat. Anyway, and then the last one for the beginning reads of July 2022 is going to be Mao Volume 5. My library is a little bit slow on picking up the newer volumes of Mao, but I'm very happy they have even this. Like, Volume 5 has a new sticker, even though Volume 6 is out, but I digress. But yeah, I'm very happy with this Takahashi series. I initially was picking this series up and purchasing it. However, I kind of realized that, you know, Takahashi, her series gets so long. Like, they're so long. And I have a very limited shelf space. So I made the decision, and when I saw that the library had Mao coming in as part of their collection, that I would sell my copies and just read it through the library, which has been great. You know, they're in wonderful condition by the time I get them, because it's still fairly new. But This begins kind of a new arc in the story, or continues the arc begun in volume 4 with the water sorcerer. Can't say more than that because spoilers. But yeah, it's basically Takahashi speedrun. All the characters are great. It's got that great Takahashi artwork. Let me see if I can find a... Let me see if I can find a thing. Well, let's just see. Like really good Takahashi man. So many Takahashi men were my childhood, high school crushes. And her ability to capture just like really unsettling horror elements has always been something that I really enjoyed. Like, just look at that. That's such good stuff. Not more than 5 seconds. Fair use. But anyway, that's going to be my first few reads from the library for the month of July. At least manga-wise, I'm still finishing up a couple novels. Well, a novel. And then I'll share that with my next library reads. And for now, I'll see you in the next clip. Hello, hello. Continuing my July 2022 reads, I finished up the first book in the Locked Tomb novel series, Gideon the Ninth. This was recommended to me from a friend, and wow, it was really good. This is probably one of my favorite novels that I've read in the last few months. It is wacky. It's kind of everything I really enjoy from, and I mean this in like the best way possible, from well-written fan fiction applied to original characters. Like, it's everything I enjoy from that, just turned up to 11 with fantastic original characters. Gideon is probably one of my favorite, like, snarky characters that I've come across in, like, many years. Basically, like what it says on the tin here in this review, lesbian necromancers explore a haunted gothic palace in space. Decadent nobles vie to serve the deathless emperor. Skeletons! I mean, it's basically everything you have looking forward to this. Bit of a trigger warning, there's a lot of violence, death, very kind of graphic details about like the defilement of the dead in a way. I mean, they are necromancers, so if that kind of stuff bothers you, probably not going to be for you, but if not, I would give it a try. I would say give it the first few chapters. It takes a little bit to get going because Tasman Muir's writing style is very, like, not your typical published novel style, at least that I've come across. So yeah, that's the first one that I finished up. And then next, oh, and this one was borrowed from my library, and I was told that this black, I can't remember what this is called, gilding or whatever, the black sides here are actually like a rare copy. So I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah, but that's like my first finished read from the library. I was able to pick up the second one, so hopefully I'll be able to finish that soon. Next up, we have a book that I actually own, Monster and the Beast, Volume 3 by Renji. This was plastic wrapped when it arrived, has like the parental warning notice, and I was like, okay, whatever you say, Yen Press, because volumes 1 and 2 had the same treatment, but they were not, they weren't that spicy. Like, it didn't feel necessary to have them plastic wrapped. This one definitely deserves the plastic wrap, definitely deserves this warning. Very, very spicy, very graphic, especially for a Japanese volume. It is censored. They do have lightsaber PPs in the sex scenes, so just be aware. I mean, Renji draws the men in their series so beautifully. I will say there is a bit of a weird thing at the end of this volume in like that little back end where they have like all the, oh look what's coming up in that. They say volume 4, where is it? Yeah, here it is. Volume 4 coming 2021. Spicy. It's not actually spicy, they're tickling each other in a non-spicy way, but yeah, it says Volume 4 coming 2021. This is a reprint done in the year 2022. Volume 4 has not come out, even in Japan, so it feels weird to me that they didn't take that out. Or at least change the date to like maybe coming soon, because Volume 4 doesn't exist yet. But yeah, I would say it's a great series. I'm really enjoying my time with it, and it was kind of fun to see the build in their relationship to Volume 3. For those unaware, this is the story of Kavo, the demon here. You see his hand, and Liam, this man right here, and how they meet each other in their journey through this kingdom together, and you kind of slowly are learning more about Liam's past. And yeah, very entertaining series. But yeah, I back ordered this in October of last year. It is July now, and it finally got its reprint. And I'm so happy it came in. Next up, we have a library manga that I borrowed. And this is going to be Onward Towards Our Noble Deaths. Completely changing the tone here. Onward Towards Our Noble Deaths by Shigeru Mizuki. Shigeru Mizuki is a very influential mangaka in Japan. You may have heard of him through his more well-known works like Gideon no Kintaro, and things like that. But Onward Towards Our Noble Deaths is a semi-autobiographical work by Mizuki, as he served in the military for Japan in World War II, and he has nothing good to say about it in this book. This book is very heavy in terms of content, so trigger warning for degradation of women, violence, depictions of war, death. Mizuki's style is very cartoonish at times, as you can see here. Most of the characters look like this. But then he also has this very intensely realistic style here that he utilizes a lot in his backgrounds. This volume was put out by, gosh, who put this out? Was it One Piece Books? Who's the publisher? Drawn and Quarterly. So this is put out by Drawn and Quarterly. This was initially printed in the US in 91. No, it was originally published in English in 2011, but I believe he published this in Japan in 1991. It's very good. You kind of get to see inside the lives of soldiers fighting for something that isn't going to happen. These soldiers depicted here are charged with defending a peninsula that they basically, from the beginning, you see that they are not going to be able to keep. And it's very sad. Like, you just see these soldiers passing away left and right from things totally out of their control. Like, somebody falls into a river and an alligator eats them, and they find the lower half of his body later on. They talk about the soldiers getting malaria and just how the fevers would cause them to lose their minds. And it's a very raw look at how the Japanese treated their soldiers during the war. And Mizuki doesn't have anything good to say. He says nothing good about the military or anything like that. And in the afterword, I would recommend reading the afterword if you do choose to pick this book up and give it a read. because he describes what it was like for him. Because while this book is semi-autobiographical, in the end, I will say everyone dies. Every character that you meet in this story dies. So go in knowing that and be ready for that. But let me just show some of his artwork. So the very interesting part would be like, this is what his characters will look like. Very, very cartoony, you know, kind of feels almost like a Saturday morning cartoon in the way that they're drawn. But then you have these like landscapes and the battle sequences that are just so beautifully rendered and sketched out in their realism. And it's just, it creates such a wonderful dynamic between his characters and the environments they're placed in. So I would recommend giving this a read. I have seen it on used book websites for like $4 if it's something you want to have in your collection. It is larger than something like the signature editions or the large prints. So this is going to be something that you're probably going to be putting on your graphic novel shelves. Or something to go with, like, I think they're about the same size as like the Akira collector's editions or things like that. So, Onward Towards Our Noble Death by Shigeru Mizuki. I do want to pick up more of Mizuki's works and give it a read. I just haven't had an opportunity to. But then we have our second BL title, I Hear the Sunspot by Yuki Fumino. This is my first pickup and read from One Piece books, kind of like Onward Towards Our Noble Death was my first pickup from Drawn and Quarterly. It's very nice to see a variety of publishers and not just the big names coming out, and it's also nice to see these smaller publishers in my local library. I Hear the Sunspot is also a library copy. It took a while for me to get it because they only have, I think, one copy in the whole system. So I was very happy to be able to at least get this, because whenever I see it in the bookstore, it's always the I Hear the Sunspot limit or the follow-up story after that. So I haven't even, this is my first time being able to read the original that's created those spin-offs. And this is about Kohei. You see him here. He has a hearing disability that he got at a young age. Well, not a young age. He got it kind of later in life, about high school. He just started losing his hearing. And he's in college now, and he meets, Taichi, who's kind of this kid who's having a hard time holding down a job because he's very brash and loud. And Taichi just gets hired as Kohei's note taker because Kohei can't hear everything that the teachers are saying. And it's through this interaction that they learn to build a relationship with each other. They kind of see their flaws in themselves and work to better themselves to be able to enjoy each other's company. And it's a very good story. Like, you know, I was a little hesitant because it's one of those things where everybody was talking about, oh, it's so good, la la la, it's so good. And it's like, you know, I don't want to jump into the hype of believing, oh yeah, it's really good, and like get disappointed. But it really was as good as everyone said, and I'm very excited to read more in the I Hear the Sunspot stories. So yeah, this is I Hear the Sunspot by Yuki Fumino. Highly recommend. Bumped that. Okay, and then we come up to the next volume that I own, which is going to be Seaside Strange, or Volume 3 of the Harukaze no Atanja. Volume 2, very confusing. But something I noticed when I picked this up, so this does come plastic wrap, it is spicy, more BL. But the fun thing was that I noticed, this is me being a paper nerd, was that the Volume 3 cover is substantially heavier stock than either Volume 1 or Volume 2. Like I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but let's see here. If you see Volume 2, it's a standard cover. This is normally what you'll see Seven Seas using for most of their publications. Then we come to volume 3. I don't know if this is because of supply chain issues that they had to change the stock to a heavier stock, or if this is going to be standard. But you'll see in the way that it acts, it's a lot heavier. So as I was reading it, I was like, why does this feel so different? And then I noticed it's probably a whole grade higher in terms of like thickness for the paper. But this is volume 3 in the story, and we are following Shun and his boyfriend Mio as they've returned to Shun's hometown to kind of look over, like, you know, try and make amends with Shun's family because he ran away. Because after he ran away, when he came out as gay and broke off a whole wedding, blah blah blah, he hadn't made any contact with his family in that whole time. This is kind of following that story, and they've met Shun's new adoptive younger brother, not Fumi, that's his ex. No, that is Fumi. Fumi is the brother. But this follows up on the ending of volume 2, which kind of left with a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end of Christmas, where Fumi catches some naughty business happening between these two in the home. So it's very interesting how they like kind of touch on that, allow them to discuss it with Fumi, and kind of go over like, you know, it's not something you need to worry about, but if it's something that, you know, like, it's not weird that, you know, we're together or anything like that. So it's a very good way to do it. And then it also follows Shun kind of coming to the realization that maybe his writing career isn't as good as he thought it was, and him coming to terms with that he's in his 30s living at home, and that's okay. He's you know, his boyfriend's working and things like that, but that's nothing to be ashamed of in himself. I really enjoyed the Seaside Stranger series in the way that it depicts like real life, because the characters feel very like down to earth in how they react to certain things and how they feel. I would recommend this if you're into it, but again, spicy. It does come plastic wrap, so it is going to be an 18 plus title, even though the back says 17. I mean, you could be 17 and read it, but technically in the US, I think you have to be 18 to buy adult content, so quickly. But finishing up the reads, the second round of reads for July of 2022 is going to be Yona of the Dawn, volumes 1. There we go. 1, 2, and 3. This is library copies, so, you know, not the best condition, but I mean, they're still great. I mean, they're still very readable. Nothing was missing from these volumes. I have in the past, with a few library books, come across some where they were damaged, and I had to report it to the library, which always sucks because I know it's going to be taken out of the collection, but you just can't ignore a whole page being ripped out of the middle of the book and not report that. But hopefully they're able to replace it. But anyway, for Yona of the Dawn, this is the story by Mizuho Kusanagi. Very popular, has an anime adaptation, like over 30 volumes, which is part of the reason I was kind of worried to jump into it. On top of that, the first volume, Yona, is insufferable. Oh my god. She is the epitome. In volume 1, she gets much better very quickly, but in volume 1, she's like the epitome of the, oh no, I'm a shoujo protagonist, a female shoujo protagonist who's a princess, and I've never had to work a day in my life. Oh no, my father has been murdered. How terrible. I can't do anything. It was awful. Oh my god. Like, I will say, like, if you are turned off by volume 1, please don't give up, because I was like, okay, well, why people say she gets better? God, I hope it's fast, because yeah, no, it was, volume 1 was kind of hard to read through because she was just everything I don't like in a shoujo protagonist, or in a female protagonist. Let me just not keep that to just shoujo. But it starts off with Yona. It's like right before her 16th birthday, and her cousin is coming to visit, and she has a big crush on the cousin. And then that's where the first warning comes in. There is crush, like a romantic crush between first cousins Yona and her cousin Suwon, I think is her. Yeah, Suwon. His name. Nothing ever comes of it. I mean, when they're kids, they sleep and hold hands, but that was like completely unrelated to her crush on him. But it also like reflective of the era. You know, there was a lot of that going on during like this kind of time period. So it's not too side IE, but it is a little side IE. But nothing comes of that because, you know, spoiler for volume 1 of this series. When did this come out? Spoiler for volume 1 of this series that started printing in the US in 2016. Her dad dies. He's murdered by Suwon, as far as we are aware. And it starts her and her bodyguard Hack, who is not there. That's Suwon. Hack, this gentleman right here. He takes her from the palace and they flee to go protect her and figure out what to do about this, basically the usurping of the throne. And then here's the back, which is it's very interesting that they put her with a sword, because she doesn't even hold a sword in this first volume. That's kind of like a thing that they touch on. The father was very anti-battle, anti-war. He hated weapons. So that's where a little bit of distaste comes from Suwon, whose father was the now previous emperor's brother, who was like a great general and actually the oldest son, so he was expected to inherit the throne. Thus a little bit of a anger building from there. But then in volume 2 we see Yona kind of getting a hold of herself, basically, and figuring out what to do. They meet some other characters who join them on their journey. Here's the back of volume 2. Very beautiful artwork. Probably, I'm very excited to see how it goes, considering this is a much older series, but it's very like shoujo in ways that, you know, but it's also, I think shoujo gets a bad rap because like you hear Yona of the Dawn and you're like, oh, okay, and you see a cover like this and you're like, oh my god, romance, blah blah blah. But there's so much action in here. Like Hack is like a general, like a renowned general for murder, and I mean in volume 1 there's like murder, like it is action as much as it is like romance at this point. Then this is Suwon, Mr. I killed your daddy. This doesn't actually happen. They haven't seen each other this whole time. But it's like especially tragic because these three grew up together. They were growing up the whole time, and they like grew up knowing and caring for each other, and then Suwon just kind of like threw that away, which is kind of where Hack feels like he feels betrayal, not only for the murder of Yona's father, Emperor Il, but also the betrayal of his friend throwing everything away. But yeah, the first 3 volumes are really good. I'm very excited to continue. My library thankfully has, I believe, up to current. I saw at least into the 30s, so I know we're pretty close to current, if not up to current. But yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. So, Yona of the Dawn, everybody. Not that I'm not like the 80th person, 200th person to talk about Yona of the Dawn, but yeah, it's exciting. Okay, and welcome to my third and final clip for the reads I did in manga and novels for July of 2022. We're going to start off with a manga that I own. I picked this up from my local comic book shop. You'll see that in my haul video. I don't know why I'm pointing there. But in my haul video, Box of Light, this is volume 1. This is a new series put out by Seven Seas by Seiko Erisawa. And I will read the back for you since this is a volume 1. A quiet convenience store at the crossroads between life and death. Its faint glow in the darkness draws in transient souls, pulling them closer to the final purchase they'll ever make. Prepare for shadowy creatures, strange employees, and an air of dread in this delightfully creepy supernatural tale. And, you know, that's a perfect summary for this volume. It has this feeling of dread during the stories, but it's not overtly scary. Like, there's like creepy moments, but it's not spooky. I first thought this was going to be like fairly episodic, where we don't really learn too much about the employees of the store, but it actually ended up being that there was a lot of focus on the employees after chapter 2. Chapters 1 and 2 follow patrons of the convenience store. Chapters 3 and forward kind of deal with the store itself, the employees of the store, and how that goes. But I really like, so this is a gloss finish on just the store on this matte cover, and I really love how they did the X being this like kind of star. The artwork in here is definitely a little rougher around the edges, but it really allows the sense of weirdness. So we see here, but let me try to find it. But yeah, so the first 2 stories follow patrons of the store, and it turns out that the store, as the description says, is like somewhere between the boundary of the living and the dead. And it's hard to say like what I really liked about it, but it's just like, you know, vibes. You know, it's like the worst thing, like, oh yeah, you know, like I love the vibes. Like, whatever. But I did like this little touch here. So because it's a convenience store, there's like some receipts printed to the interior cover, which was a nice touch. But also, the episodes or chapters are shown here on a receipt, which I thought was a super cute touch. And when I initially saw this scheduled for release, I thought it was going to be a one-shot. Oh, the receipt printing is on the other side of the interior as well. I thought this was going to be a one-shot, but it says volume 1. So I'm interested to see where this story goes, because it felt like there didn't need to be more. But I hope that's just me being a little like pessimistic. But it felt like I'm interested to see where else they can take this, because they did introduce some new characters, some new recurring characters at the end of the volume. So we'll see. And that's the first volume I read. Then next up is another Seven Seas release. This one from the library, Daily Report About My Witch Senpai by Maka Mochida. Volume 1, read the back. This office couple has sparks literally flying. Misono is an office drone with his own ups and downs at work, but thankfully he has an ally, his senpai Shizuka, who happens to be a witch. Shizuka is always ready to lend a hand to those in need, but Misono thinks she should take better care of herself, since zipping around on a broomstick to run errands can be quite stressful. Is Misono's overprotective concern for Shizuka driven by mere respect for this flustered witch? Or could it be more? Let this magical romantic comedy cast its spell on you. I heard really good things about this volume, and I had it on hold at my library waiting for it to get through processing for like months. And finally it processed and it got to me, and I was so excited, and it did live up to the hype. It was so cute. Like, it was really cute. Like, their relationship is so good, and it develops so naturally through this volume. This is a 2-volume series. Library doesn't have volume 2 yet. But since it's only a 2-volume series, I'm debating picking up volume 2 to see how it is, and then maybe picking up volume 1 if volume 2 continues to be as good as this volume was. The art is adorable. There is a little bit of a content warning for an abusive ex of Shizuka's, who comes into the picture about a third to halfway through this volume. He kind of abuses her abilities as a witch to make himself more comfortable, or to make himself seem better, which isn't great. It was a very good representation of that, but if that's something that makes you uncomfortable, I would say maybe read up to that, and then, you know, you can kind of skim through and see how that goes. But the dynamic between these two is so nice, and, like, you know, they don't realize that they're, like, growing in affection to each other. They just think that they're growing as friends, and it's very sweet. And Shizuka has this familiar who is an iguana, and they are hilarious. They're like, oh my god, when are you gonna bring a hot man over? Oh my god, it's been so boring at this house. And then Misono shows up and she's like, I approve. Yes, that one. So funny. But yeah, absolutely adorable. Would recommend. Next up, another library series continuing from my last clips. It's going to be Yona of the Dawn, Volume 4. Volume 5. And Volume 6. And it feels like we are speedrunning a story in these 3 volumes, because, so, we found at the end of around mid-volume 3, that Yona may be the, what's it called? Reincarnation of, like, the Red Dragon Emperor, who was, like, the one who united the lands, la la la, and now she must recollect the 4 dragon warriors who served the Emperor, the Red Dragon Emperor. And in the end of towards the end of Volume 3, we meet the White Dragon, who kind of grew up in a village, who made that their whole shtick. Like, wow, we're raising the White Dragon for the Red Dragon Emperor. Isn't that amazing? What a beautiful and glorious purpose. And, you know, obviously Hack and our boy here, oh my gosh. Nope. Holy, I feel so bad. I can't remember his name, and he's so good. In the previous end of Volume 3, which I totally forgot to talk about, because I don't know why I didn't remember, but he joins the party, and he's kind of like a know-it-all, can do everything except fight. Pretty boy who can do everything but fight. He joins them and helps guide them to the White Dragon, and Hack isn't a fan of the White Dragon Gija, because he's like, what is what does this pretty boy who's been sheltered his whole life know about anything? But Gija can sense the other dragons, so he guides them to meeting the blue dragon. And the blue dragon is this guy right here, and he's so good. I love him. They give him a name in volume 5 because, so like I said, the white dragon was raised like, oh, you're so great. Blue dragon, not so much. Complete opposite, in fact. And it was so, it's so good. And then volume 6, or like partway through volume 5, we encounter some pirates who end up being imperative to the story, as one of them is the green dragon. I can't remember all the colors, but like we're already like 3 dragons in and we're at volume 6, and this series is already like is ongoing at 30 something volumes. So I'm like, whoa, what's gonna come up? What's happening in volume 30 something? Because this feels like something that would, I will be honest, it feels like something that could wrap up in like 12 to 15 volumes at this pace. So I'm excited to see where the story goes. And especially because like I mentioned in my previous clip, I did not like Yona in volume like 1 and like most of volume 2, but she's already getting so much better and like growing as a character in just these like 6 volumes that I'm like, okay, I get it. I get why people love her so much. But yeah, excited to pick up more Yona 4, 5, and 6. And lastly, I finally got around to reading Witch Hat Atelier. This is also a library borrow. This is volume 1. Volume 1. Volume 2. And volume 3. I absolutely adore these 3 volumes. Wow. I get all the hype now. I am so invested in Coco and Kifri. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it. Kifri, and all the apprentices. And man, that first chapter is like so brutal. It's such a great first chapter and a great introduction. And going through this series, the art just blew my mind. Not just the art, but the way that Kamome Shimahara, the mangaka, the way she does the paneling in some of these scenes is just blows me away. The way she integrates the characters with the panels. Like, I'm just going to show some bits from chapter 1 just because it's like this panel here where Kifri is utilizing the panel to rest his arm and hand on. Like, get out of here. And then here, where the paneling is her thought bubble. Like, it leads you so naturally into the other one while also being incredibly beautiful. It's the story like takes off running and doesn't stop. I'm so invested in this world and these characters, and I'm just in love with the art. I'm hoping it doesn't end up being too long of a series, So right now I think there's 9 volumes out in English. I don't know if there's more out in Japan, but this is another one where I'm like, well, maybe I could make some room on my shelf. But for now, it's gonna stay a library read because my library is current. Thank you, Hawaii State Public Library System, for having such a great selection of manga. But yeah, Witch Hat Atelier, volumes 1, 2, and 3. Definitely picking more of this up next time I swing by the library, along with some more Yona of the Dawn. And that's going to be it for my July 2022 reads. It was a pretty okay month. I generally read a little bit more than this, but got a dog recently, and it's been a lot. She's been a handful, but a good handful. Very happy to have her as part of our family. But in the meantime, would love if you hit that subscribe button, gave a like to the video, left a comment, let me know which of the reads that I checked out you think is the best, or if you think that some of my opinions are a little whack, or if you agree with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and please stay tuned for future videos. I'm excited to keep making more. I'm really enjoying video format. I was doing kind of like book reviews on my Instagram, but I feel like I couldn't quite express everything because Instagram does have like that word count maximum. So I'm really enjoying being able to just kind of like talk it out here, even if it's kind of like a little rambly at times. But I'm also like I don't know if you can already tell, but I'm a big hand talker. So being able to do this and chat with everybody, probably a little bit more my speed, would probably be moving Instagram to being more chill, more like, oh, look at these books I got from the library. But yeah, looking forward to talking to you guys soon, and see you in the next video.